certainly is. This is our 5th day of early voting in Sarasota County. We started on October 19th. We have had a tremendous turnout so far. I think as we've seen across Florida with early voting. Right now, our overall turnout in Sarasota County, before I began talking to you, is about 39%. That is a significant turnout of the voters in Sarasota County in this 5th day of early voting here. We have had more than 100,000 vote by mail ballots return, which is a historic number here in Sarasota County. We've never reached that kind of milestone. We're getting several thousand back per day in our drop boxes because voters can return them to drop box sites. We have drive-through sites at our elections offices, and at all early voting sites they can drop off ballots. So they're dropping them off by the thousands, and we're still getting a few thousand in the mail each day. As well, like yesterday at our early voting sites, we broke 7,000 voters at our 8 sites countywide. Every day that we've had early voting, the number has increased each day, the number of people that are coming to vote in person. Of course, November 3rd is right around the corner, and that's the last day for voters to be able to vote in this election. But my message to voters today, as we move into this final stretch of the election, there's some very important things they need to know. One, if any voter still wants to vote by mail and they haven't made that request to have a ballot mailed to them, tomorrow is the final day to make that request, October 24th, Saturday at 5 p.m. Every voter needs to know that, because after that time we will not be able to accept a request under Florida law to mail them a ballot. So this is the final opportunity to have a voter mailed a vote by mail ballot. So that is tomorrow at 5 o'clock. Those voters can go online to our website at sarasotavotes.com or can call us at 861-8618 to make that request. The other messages that I'm offering to voters right now are, if you already have a vote by mail ballot and you have not returned that ballot, I am urging you to return that ballot now. Florida does not begin opening and tabulating ballots on election day. We started October 12th. That's what I was doing before I came down here, and I have to go back upstairs to do canvassing board work. But that is ongoing, and we're working every day, even through the weekend, to keep up with the capacity and the volume that we have right now. So voters can help themselves and help us by returning those ballots as soon as possible. The U.S. Postal Service says the last day to mail a returned vote by mail ballot is Tuesday, October 27th. That's the week before Election Day, because remember, postmarks do not work for domestic vote by mail ballots. It has to be returned to the Supervisor of Elections by 7 p.m. on election night. And so voters can return them by mail, or they can drop them off at drop boxes at our offices or early voting sites. And then the next message I would offer voters is, if they're planning to vote in person, early voting is a great option. Remember, early voting is just like voting at your polling place on election day. We use the same check-in stations, we use the same voting booths, the same tabulators. You just have more convenience with the early voting option. You can vote at any of the 8 sites that we have countywide, and you can choose the time to vote there. We're open daily now through Sunday, November 1st, 8:30 to 6:30, 10 hours a day at 8 sites. The reason I'm encouraging voters to consider early voting if they are voting in person is there have been some wait times this week. Those have improved. If you look at our wait times, we have a wait time feature on our website. Those have decreased over this week as we have improved our ability to check voters in and process them. But there's 2 things that have caused that wait time. One is social distancing. We can't put as many check-in stations and voting booths into some of the facilities that we have. They just can't handle it for us following CDC guidelines. And the second thing is, we have a very long ballot. It's 2 ballot sheets. It's 17 inches long. There's a lot to vote on for voters, so it takes a little bit more time to check them in with that ballot length, get them to vote those ballots, and for the tabulator to accept it. So those 2 things are causing a little more wait times in the county, and that will roll over into election day from early voting. So I want voters to know that because I want them to know their full options and that while Election Day is a good and safe option, if they're voting in person, they might not want to wait till November 3rd. They may want to go ahead and get this out of the way because of the potential for more wait times, even on Election Day, than early voting right now. So those are my big messages to voters, things that they need to know here in Sarasota County, I'm assuming in all counties in Florida, as we move into this final phase of the presidential election for 2020. So with that, Tim?
What kind of efforts are being made right now as a security to keep a bad actor or something to influence or to get involved or change what you're doing?
Right. So there's several things that we've done, and I think as all you know, Florida put a great focus on election security, especially before we were coming into 2020, because that was a big part of the discussion before we got into the pandemic back in March. But we're still focused on that. Florida has worked with our partners in Homeland Security and the FBI. We have worked with the Department of State in Florida to do scans on our systems, those sorts of things, to work with cyber navigators here in Florida to kind of beef up our systems. The other thing that we've done, every county in Florida and the state of Florida has done, and we were the first state in the United States to do this, is to have an Albert sensor on our network in every county in Florida, including here in Sarasota County, and through the Department of State, statewide with the Florida voter registration system. And what that Albert sensor does is monitor all of the traffic on our network real time, so we know any traffic flow on that network here, which is a very helpful election security thing. So, you know, those are some of the things that we've done, Tim, and we continue to monitor those things.
And then,
Uh-oh, he's got crib notes here.
how many ballots have been referred to the canvassing board?
We will have we've got more than 100,000 vote by mail ballots back. I believe an estimate right now would be about 350 or 375 or so with signature issues. And as you know, we contact all those voters. So if there is a signature deficiency, we will send a letter. Then we will try to call, email, text message that voter from our office to try to help them through the cure process to cure that signature deficiency. But right now, it's probably, the last time I looked, it was maybe 300 or 400 at this point. And as you know, the canvassing board is the only, my staff can't reject ballots, I can't reject ballots, only the county canvassing board, and that meeting doesn't take place until 2 days after the election, so voters have until then. But it's a pretty small number out of the 100,000 that we have back. And so we're focusing on those problem signatures, I guess you would say, and working those voters through that.
But we don't have numbers of how many.
Yeah, like I said, the last time I looked, when I ran a report like a day or so ago, it was like 360, 375 or something like that.
And for example, if somebody mailed in their ballot and they had to tape it, does that go to the
No, it will go through. Because we've had this question about envelopes or things. You know, if someone has an envelope issue, we're willing to mail them a new envelope. If not, if they've cut it back open because of a secrecy sleeve issue or a sealed envelope, they could certainly tape that back up. That's not going to cause their ballot to be rejected for any reason.
And who decides this?
It would never probably even get to the canvassing board for that. The canvassing board would never see it for that reason. It would just automatically go through. We're looking at, you know, that is the envelope from the voter, that we're able to, you know, ascertain that they have a request, that they haven't voted, and we're looking at that signature. That's it. So it's not going to go to the canvassing board because of tape on an envelope.
With the early voting and all the people in there, do you have to have more staff for that in regards to just like an election day? It seems like a lot more trouble.
Yeah, I mean, we do. Again, you know, we have to work within the constraints of COVID. So we have hundreds of people working for us right now and with us. But that, you know, in a sense, maybe even smaller than we would normally have just because of social distancing and things and the health guidelines right now. But it's still a lot of people. Is early voting a lot of trouble? You know, in a lot of ways, as I said, I think it's a great alternative for in-person voting for voters right now than necessarily waiting to go to the polls. But certainly voters, November 3rd, I know a lot of people like to vote the traditional way and their polls will be open. But the great thing about the state of Florida is we provide options and convenient options for voters. So voters need to choose the method for voting that's the most comfortable for them. But I wanted to make this message about the last chance for vote by mail, early voting going into our first weekend, and then next week being our final week of early voting, to make sure everyone understands their options. And we're repeating these messages over and over and over again because I just want to make sure we're breaking through and getting through to the public right now, especially with the high turnout. It could be historic turnout, and with the pandemic right now, to make sure voters avail themselves of every option that they have to vote in this election.
And how long should you have to take to go do an early vote? I mean,
as of yesterday, most of the sites had less than a 30-minute wait. Could be longer on election day. You know, there were some sites early on that had waits of a little more than an hour, as you know. But yesterday, the busiest sites, I think, were down to like 30 to 45 minutes. And then the least busy sites were maybe 20 to 30 minutes yesterday. Kind of depends on the time of day that people come. I can tell you, like here at the Terrace building, about 5 o'clock in the afternoon, although we're open to 6:30, the numbers start to drop off with the early voting people. So it's busier in the morning when we begin, and then it is peak time, kind of 11 to 2. Sundays are usually good days for people to go early vote because that sometimes can be a little less of a turnout. So this Sunday, we have 2 Sundays coming up for early voting, but the wait times have not really been that bad. They were more the first day because we had so many people that were anxious to come vote. We had people waiting in line before we even started for 2 hours at least. I felt like it was Best Buy on Black Friday here, people waiting to get their TV to do that because we had so many people that wanted to be the first, wanted to make their voices heard in this important election.
And then when people are waiting in line, can they wear a Biden t-shirt or a Trump?
Yeah, in Florida, you can wear any type of campaign or political paraphernalia. The only thing that you can't do is solicit while you're in there. So you can't be talking up your candidate or your party or whatever, but you can wear whatever. We see people doing that with their mask, with their shirts, you know, whatever they've got. That's certainly fine to do that in the state of Florida.
And have we seen any problems with early voting yet, such as people getting upset or?
No, I mean, I think overall, like I said, it's going smoothly. I mean, if there are any concerns, questions, issues with voters, we ask that they contact us because we're always here to help them. That's what we do. We love our voters. We're passionate about serving them, making this the best experience that we can when they vote. Not only do we want to have them have their voices heard, but we want to make sure that that's a positive experience for them and they feel good about that experience with us. But no, you know, there's always little minor things, Tim, during any election.
What would you say throughout this has been the greatest concern your office is getting from voters? I know, like, on social media, and you're getting questions and getting concerns. What would you say has been the greatest concern you're getting from voters? How would you address that?
Well, certainly, I think there's high enthusiasm, and then there's certainly maybe a little heightened anxiety in this election. Again, because of COVID, just because of the nature of the election this cycle. Certainly people are checking with us about their vote by mail ballots and things to make sure they're counted and that sort of question. Or maybe they, you know, go to our website and they can't find something and they need to contact us personally for that kind of information. But a lot of questions about vote by mail because probably half the voters will vote by mail in this election. That's a lot more than normal. It's normally about 32% of the turnout. My guess is it could be, we'll see on November 3rd, but it could be half the turnout in this. So we're certainly answering a lot of questions about vote by mail ballots in the process because there's so many new people that have never voted by mail before. So just talking them through the process and how all the steps in the process works, from them dropping off a ballot to us getting that ballot into our offices and getting those ballots, signatures checked, accepted. And that takes, at this point, it can take a couple days, a few days to do that. As we get closer to Election Day, that process will speed up. But right now, we're trying to be methodical with it, and it takes a few days to do that.
Last question, do you have one? Saw the press conference with the FBI and what Iran is supposedly accused of doing. How concerning is something like that to you?
Well, certainly, you know, any interference in our elections is concerning. Any type of intimidation for voters, you know, we're not going to stand for that in this election. We certainly support free speech, but we're not don't support any interference and intimidation. And to have a foreign actor or a domestic actor, for that matter, try to scare or intimidate or threaten voters isn't acceptable at all. Thankfully, the federal authorities were able to quickly address that because they've been working with us so well over the last 4 or 5 years on these issues, and let us know really what was going on with this. So certainly anything like that is concerning for us, because we shouldn't accept any threats or intimidation in our elections here in the United States. You good? Okay. Everybody good? I appreciate you, like I said. And some of it was just routine things that we've talked about before, but we've just got to keep getting the message out to the public. And you all are critical partners in doing that with us. So thank you.